At the start of the film, we meet Chris Johnson. He sits in a small cafe in Las Vegas and keeps glancing at his watch. He waits for a precise second. When the hands line up, he spins his head toward the door as if expecting someone. Nothing happens. He breathes and returns to his coffee. Chris performs in a modest nightclub under the stage name Frank Cadillac. His act is built around prediction tricks. The audience thinks they see sleight of hand and misdirection. One night, he calls a young woman up on stage and times a trick so that a cheap necklace will fall from her neck at an exact moment. The crowd applauds. To them, it is a neat stunt. To him, it is different. Two men in the crowd are watching more than the trick. FBI agents taking notes. After the show, Chris wanders to the casino floor. He plays small hands at blackjack. He bets modest amounts and wins just enough to cover his bills. He has a rule: never win big, never chase a jackpot, never draw attention. Still, the casino's security team finds him interesting. The head of security, Roy Ball, follows his play on screens. Something about Chris's timing looks strange. Roy radios his people and tells them to approach. Chris already expects this. He stands, pockets his chips, and walks to the cashier. On his way, he slips into a flash of what comes next. An armed robber will burst in, push toward the cashier, and shoot two employees. Chris times his steps to arrive the second the robber draws his weapon. When the man fires, Chris moves faster than instinct. He grabs the gun and disarms him. The crowd doesn't realize the scope of what happened. Security only sees a man holding a pistol and reacts to that image. They send officers after him. Because Chris can preview 1 to 2 minutes ahead, he slips through their net. He reads their moves before they make them. He leaves through a back exit and jumps into the first car he can find. The police join the chase. A train crossing looms. Chris watches a second into the future and realizes he needs more speed to clear the tracks. He replays the scenario, pushes the pedal harder, and clears the crossing just ahead of the train. The pursuing cars slam on brakes as the locomotive roars by. FBI agent Callie Ferris studies the casino tapes later. She freezes frame after frame, trying to understand the man who disarmed the robber. Her supervisor interrupts. The Bureau is tracking a different story. Terrorists stole a nuclear device and intend to detonate it in Los Angeles. The hunt for the bomb is the top priority. In that context, a casino incident seems minor. Callie cannot dismiss what she watched. She believes Chris's ability could tip the balance. She persuades her bosses to let her investigate. She summons Roy Ball and questions him about Chris. Watching the gambling footage, Callie concludes the man sees the immediate future, roughly a minute and a half to 2 minutes ahead. That window might help find the weapon. Chris goes to his friend Irv's apartment. Irv is older, blunt, and tired of Chris's choices. He scolds Chris for stealing the car and warns him not to invite trouble. They play pool and talk about a woman Chris described in one of his extended visions. For the first time, he remembers someone he saw further than the usual slice. He believes this woman who once passed him in a diner could be the person he has been waiting for. Irv tells him to forget fantasies and avoid risk. While they talk, Chris freezes. He sees an FBI agent arriving in 60 seconds. Instead of running, he stays. He wants to see what they want. Callie walks in and asks Irv to leave. She sits opposite Chris and offers a blunt case for his cooperation. She outlines the stolen device, the potential mass deaths, and asks him to help. Chris hides behind his stage persona. He claims the casino incident was luck and calls his trickery a performer's act. Callie presses. She reminds him of the stolen car and hints at legal consequences. Her warnings become an offer he cannot ignore. He declines. Armed agents burst in. Chris anticipated the raid and has already left through a back exit. The agents find empty chairs and a silent pool table. Callie is seconds too late. Outside, Roy Ball walks to his car and is met by two strangers who introduce themselves as gaming commission inspectors. They have knives and guns. One cuts Roy's legs. Pressed to the ground, Roy is forced to answer questions about Chris. They tell him people with unusual skills can ruin plans. In pain and fear, he reveals what he knows. The attackers leave, and Roy is left bleeding. Back at the diner, Chris times things carefully. The door opens, and the woman from his vision steps in. She moves past him to a table and sits. Chris approaches and asks if he can join her. She brushes him off, cold and uninterested. Chris runs through several possible openings. He tries different lines, different smiles. Each time the minute rewinds and he replays the same interaction, she remains closed. A man in a white suit named Kendall comes in and argues with the woman, Liz. He grabs her roughly. Chris steps between them and displays a small coin trick. Kendall swings at him. Because Chris can see the punches a second before. He dodges. Still, the woman isn't impressed. Time rewinds again. This time, Chris lets Kendall punch him. The motion and impact are real. Liz reacts. She drives the ex away and helps Chris up. She finally invites him to sit. He says his car was stolen and he needs to get to an Indian reservation. She is heading there. She teaches at the local school and agrees to drive him. They travel toward the reservation across desert and canyon. The landscape passes. Chris tries to charm Liz, yet she keeps her guard up. Slowly, she softens. Callie and Agent Kavanaugh interview the diner staff and trace where the couple headed. Kavanaugh brings grim news. Roy Ball was found murdered with his throat cut. Now the terrorists have targeted anyone who might interfere. They want Chris eliminated. At the docks, men unload containers labeled industrial gear. Inside, they move a heavy object wrapped and padded parts of the stolen device. The same crew who attacked Roy are now moving the weapon. Chris and Liz reach the settlement. She brings a small present for a student's birthday. Chris shows the boy a trick and turns a stone into a small lizard. The child laughs. Liz watches and begins to drop her guard. By evening, they drive through rain and Liz dozes on Chris's shoulder. The road later is blocked by a washout. They turn back and check into the Cliffhanger Motel. The room has one bed. Chris offers to sleep in the car. Liz sighs and lets him. Later, she rises and looks out the window. Callie pins Liz's plate to the motel address and orders Kavanaugh to move in. At FBI headquarters, Director Wisdom holds an urgent meeting. The alert level is highest. The Bureau has no confirmed leads on the bomb. Callie argues they should detain Chris. Wisdom reluctantly clears an operation. On a hill, the terrorists watch the motel. Leader Smith orders a sniper. If Chris appears, he should be killed. Morning at the motel, Chris turns a paper blossom into a rose for Liz. She finally allows him to kiss her. Agents take positions. Callie plans to use Liz as bait. Callie stops Liz and shows her the casino footage where Chris holds a gun. She plays up danger and fear. Then she persuades Liz to slip a sleeping pill into his drink 2 minutes after he showers. In those 2 minutes, Chris will not have time to see it coming, she says. Liz, scared and confused, agrees. Back at the room, Liz pours pills into the glass. Chris steps from the shower and reaches for the water. At the last second, Liz freezes. She can't betray him. She tells Chris the plan. He is not surprised. He had watched this version. He proves himself by turning on the TV and speaking the anchor's lines a moment before they speak. Liz believes. Chris writes a note with instructions and promises he must leave and he will come back. He places $10,000 on the table and kisses her. He leaves by the balcony and jumps into the canyon below. Liz follows his note. She uses a brick to hold the gas and sends the car careening down. It slams into the motel's giant log decoration. Terrorists fire. A sniper's round whistles past Chris, but he moves with the future in his head and avoids it. Falling logs and the runaway vehicle crash through the set pieces. Chris ducks and runs through the chaos. Callie waits below with a gun and points at him. At that moment, massive logs collapse from the sign above. Callie freezes in the path. Chris grabs her and points out a safe spot. They jump aside. The logs thunder past. After the dust clears, Chris has saved Callie. Agents handcuff him. As they take him away, terrorists seize Liz and vanish. At the bureau, Chris is tied to a chair. Special clamps hold his eyelids so he cannot close his eyes. Callie turns on a live news feed. She hopes a string of fast events will force him to see an image of the device location. On screen, he sees Liz on a rooftop, wrapped in explosives and a blast. The vision plays out. Chris screams and refuses to be used to find a bomb this way. They lock him in a cell. Chris asks a guard for a cigarette and runs dozens of escape scenarios in his head. He finds the perfect one. Axe knocks out the guard and slips past agents by predicting every step. He runs to the parking garage roof where he glimpsed the future. This time, his sight stretches farther, 2 hours ahead. The longer view changes everything. He tells Callie the scene is a trap. He bargains. He will help find the device if she promises Liz's safety. Callie agrees. On the roof, a sniper fires. Chris throws himself as if hit. The shot reveals the sniper's position, and the capture team returns fire. The shooter dies. Chris reads the future and names the license plate of a van that will arrive. He leads the team to intercept. The van is stopped where he said. Callie shoots nearby fuel drums and triggers an explosion that flips the van. Liz tumbles out and hides among the docks. On the tanker, the team boards and moves through the ship. Chris's ability seems to place him in many possible futures at once. He runs scenarios rapidly and pinpoints where Liz is held. A firefight erupts. Kavanaugh is hit and dies. The team pushes to the hold. Deep in the ship's hold, the leader Smith holds Liz and threatens her. Chris runs through outcomes until he finds the one where they all live. He charges. Bullets fly, and he avoids them in a tight, precise motion. Callie fires the decisive shot. Smith drops. The team frees Liz. Chris embraces her. After the rescue, the team searches the docks for the bomb. They hook Chris to a device that maps seismic pulses so he can find the explosion pattern he saw. He studies the equipment and realizes he misread their chain of events. The port raid was a delay. The real strike is elsewhere. Then Chris watches a citywide blast in the future. A mushroom cloud rises over downtown Los Angeles. The vision shows the flash and the wave that wipes the skyline. Chris feels the horror of that possible future. Then the scene flips. Chris opens his eyes at the cliffhanger motel. He is alive. Liz on his chest. Morning light on the window. The explosion, the tanker, the deaths, all had been one of the possible futures he peered into. He had seen the worst outcome. He calls Callie and makes his terms. Liz must stay completely out of this. Callie promises. Chris wakes Liz, tells her he must leave to deal with something important, and asks her to wait. He kisses her and walks out. On the motel porch, a black SUV pulls up. Callie steps out and Chris climbs in. They drive toward Los Angeles. He understands that his sight is more than a trick. It is a tool that can change events and save lives. He has seen the worst and now sees how to stop it. For the first time, he accepts responsibility. He grips the wheel, thinking of every choice he can change, and knows the coming hours will test him in ways he never imagined. And hope